There are very few feelings of dread that I experience, unlike that of experiencing direct eye contact with someone or something that I probably should not be having eye contact with. While I've never actually had an experience with some unknown entity watching me, the possibility that someone or something else could be watching me is what truly scares me. I remember a few years back walking through some trails in the woods behind my house when I noticed small beady yellow eyes peering back at me. The eyes turned out just to be a few deer, but my imagination spiraled in those few moments. Could it be a bear, a cougar, or something more sinister or inhuman? The eyes, unlike the rest of the anatomy, can say so much by doing so little. This fear of eyes in general started for me when I was around 6 to 9 years old. I had a large obsession with Ripley's Believe It or Not books and would look through every page with fascination at some of the weirdest and most bizarre facts and things I've ever seen. However, anytime I looked through the book, I would always anxiously wait for a page with a picture of a woman with her eyes bulging out of her head, staring at me. After doing some research, I've found that this condition is called proptosis, or the bulging of one or both of your eyes from their natural position. So at that time, I attributed proptosis as the main cause of my fear of eyes. When I told people I was afraid of eyes, they'd make fun of me. People would literally send me fucking Snapchats of just the eye emojis just to make fun of me. I literally even made a TikTok trying to prove my fear of eyes and failed at this too. I also no longer look like the long-lost brother of Call Me Carson, so I'm going to give it another try. There are other instances of my childhood that I can also attribute to the fear of being stared at, and uncomfortable eye contact in general. One being the artwork from the 1995 electronic album, I Care Because You Do, by Aphex Twin. I don't necessarily remember the exact instance that I first encountered this artwork, but it has always made me uncomfortable anytime I look at it. The artwork itself is a self-portrait of Aphex Twin member Richard James, but the pure uncanniness of it makes it seem like the painting is staring at you, smiling. Why? Who knows? Maybe he knows something that you don't. All I do know is that media today uses the innate discomfort we as humans have with keeping eye contact to their advantage. In this video, I will show you how film and media as a whole uses the anxiety associated with this eye contact to scare and disturb the audience. In film, one of the greatest ways to show how a character is feeling is by using a close-up shot. It's a staple in filmmaking, and horror and thriller is no exception. One recent example of this I want to mention is in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, when Wanda is attempting to steal her children from a different dimension. In this scene, Wanda looks directly into the camera, telling the audience, "I know you're watching," and scaring the shit out of me. This is more of a fourth wall break more than anything, but it still uses eye contact to scare the audience, so I wanted to mention it anyways. One of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen is Ari Aster's Hereditary. Hereditary uses these shots with the actors looking directly into the camera to evoke a sense of dread and anxiety in the viewer. And just so you're aware, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched Hereditary yet, I highly recommend it. It's one of the scariest pieces of media I've personally watched. In any case, there are two scenes I want to discuss pertaining to the shot, one being at the very beginning of the movie at the grandmother's funeral. As we see the family grieving, we come to a still frame of a picture of Annie's mother in a yellow top sitting on a black couch. I never hear about the specific scene at all, but it's always brought a chill to my spine, with the image quality being so good that it looks more like the grandmother herself is staring back at me, rather than just a picture of her. And with what we know later of the grandmother's plan as the movie progresses, this singular frame comes back to haunt you, as you realize that behind the scenes her final plan was being executed, with her death not being the end, but only the beginning of the family's grief. While the last scene didn't necessarily utilize the exact idea of a close-up shot, one that does is during Annie's nightmare sequence. In the scene, Annie wakes up to find her son Peter covered from head to toe in ants, just like the body of her second-born daughter Charlie was when she was killed in a car accident. We see Annie's reaction to Peter, with the shots going back and forth between Peter and Annie's body. With each shot, Annie's expression gets more contorted and aghast, her eyes filled with fear. not only does Toni Collette do an incredible job of portraying the absolute fear her character is experiencing, but we appear to view the scene through the eyes of Peter's lifeless body, watching as the grief and anguish of his mother are horrifically displayed in her face and eyes. A few other examples of eye contact with a close-up shot I quickly want to mention along with Hereditary are the sunken place scene in Jordan Peele's Get Out, in which Daniel Kaluuya's character looks into the camera with pure helplessness as he's reliving the worst trauma in his life. And more recently, the phone scene from Kyle Edward Ball's Skinamarink, which preys not only in the fear of being stared at, but also the fear of seeing things through the darkness, where what you might first see as a vicious demon could just be a toy phone, as far as you know. However, we'd be doing an injustice if we didn't mention who mastered this craft to begin with. In the second half of the 20th century, Stanley Kubrick revolutionized how we create and view film, with Kubrick putting a larger emphasis on shot selection, atmosphere, and letting the actors' expressions tell the story rather than dialogue. One of the most iconic tropes used by the director is the Kubrick stare, in which the character looks either directly into or partially away from the camera, with a furrowed brow and their head stooping low. The Kubrick stare generally denotes a moment in a movie when a character reaches insanity, or a point in which they will never return to the person they were at the beginning of the movie. Some examples of this are in The Shining, when Jack Nicholson's character Jack Torrance looks out the window of the Overlook Hotel. Or in 2001: A Space Odyssey, when Dave Bowman looks at his younger self through the space pod, which is no longer there, as he has lost his perception of time and self. On the topic of 2001, let's discuss how this movie uses the close-up shot and eye contact to show how the characters are feeling, even without dialogue. After Hal makes an error, which he says is due to human error, the two scientists, Dave and Frank, discuss in an escape pod their plan to disconnect Hal due to his lapse in judgment. However, unknowing to the two scientists, Hal was reading their lips, and through seeing just a still frame of his red eye, we, the viewers, can see his change from a non-human AI to a conscious being, who kills the entire crew out of fear of being shut down. However, Hal underestimates human intuition, as Dave is able to escape Hal's murder spree, and with this, return the stare back, shutting him down. Other films have used the Kubrick stare to great effect as well, such as in Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin kills the Separatists on the planet of Mustafar, or in The Dark Knight, when the Joker mocks Commissioner Gordon as he fell right into the Joker's trap. We as the viewer get disturbed by the Kubrick stare, not only because it marks the point of insanity in the character, but also the point in which social norms, such as not holding eye contact, are thrown out the door, because in these scenarios, social norms don't matter. So we've been focusing on eye contact in film, mainly just because I want to get off the point that eye contact in movies can be a little jarring because you're not really expecting the characters in the movie to look at you. But let's move over to a form of media in which eye contact is much more common. In many video games, the goal of the character is to avoid enemies, and making eye contact with the character means you've essentially failed at this task, resulting in the need to battle, fight, or run depending on what game you're playing. Furthermore, for some games, making eye contact can turn a passive mob into an aggressive mob, such in the case of the Enderman, in which staring at one will make this happen. One of the best games to use eye contact as a way to elicit fear is the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. This game utilizes still images of the different animatronics roaming the halls to show the player where the fun, lovable robots are throughout the restaurant. While some miss the mark at being scary, such as this one of Chica, who looks like me after I woke my mom up to tell her I pissed the bed in the middle of the night, others use this fear of eye contact to the absolute max, such as this one of Freddy's dark eyes peering out behind the doorway, or my personal favorite, Bonnie's eyeless sockets glaring into the camera, with only small white dots indicating any sign of life, or afterlife in this case. A less common use of this fear in video games is done with the use of Easter eggs. Some that I immediately think of are the Hell Valley Sky People from Super Mario Galaxy 2, the ghost in the background of Super Mario 3D Land, and the ghost who quickly appears at the top of a spiral staircase in Dear Esther. These instances scare us because in all these cases, they aren't supposed to be here. These are all very lighthearted games, and the goal is never to scare the player, but with these Easter eggs, there's a certain fear of being watched throughout the whole game, even if they're only programmed in these specific locations. So, that's it. I hope I was able in some way or another to make you understand my fear of eyes and eye contact, and maybe even given you that fear as well. This is my first attempt at a video essay like this, and the first real attempt at any video that I've put this much effort into. Like, I literally wrote a 5-page script for this video. I haven't even started my senior thesis yet for college. So if you enjoyed, let me know. If you didn't, constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. I really enjoyed doing this video, so if this does wellish, maybe I'll make another one. I'm Gavin, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Adios!